And lastly, practice 12, resource management. There's an example. This is the book cover at the beginning. I mentioned the Enterprise Portfolio Management Council, the American guys, the 10 authors, and myself, sponsored by the PMI. And the approach that they articulated in the book, we put into MOP, which is the idea of, understand the demand, understand the supply. I should say, resist that Soviet planner syndrome. You want to measure every resource and work out what's allocated, by the hour. And then, of course, something changes or someone's sick and the whole plan gets thrown out of. So focus on the resources that really matter, understand the demand, understand the supply, then match the two, close the gap. You either recruit extra staff, you negotiate contracts, call off contracts with external suppliers, clients, you develop your staff, or you have to reschedule delivery. Very similar in many ways to those of you that are working if you're project managers, you'll know about resource leveling. Very similar to that whole kind of concept, trying to match the resources to the schedule. But it's trying to do this at a portfolio level, which leads on to one final point. And this isn't mentioned in MOP, but I just want to raise it in terms of logistical dependencies. You remember I mentioned logistical dependencies. And that's this idea of the critical chain method. Goldratt, this book, The Critical Chain. It's mentioned in PMBOK, and so that's why I've got an example from PMBOK there. The traditional approach to project scheduling is to manage the schedule, organise the schedule around tasks, and how long is each task going to take. And what Goldratt identified is that it doesn't matter how well we do that and how much detail, projects still come in late. And what he says, the reason they come in late is actually not to do with the tasks, although that's part of it. We overestimate, or we're very poor at estimating how long things will take, but actually we overestimate. We suffer from what's called the student syndrome. In other words, we put off starting things till the very last moment. Parkinson's law, the work expands to fill the time available. So if I've got 5 days to complete my task, but I finish at the end of day 3, I don't hand it over to the next guy. I gold plate, I make things even better. Because why would I hand it over to them? They're not ready in any case. And that's an important point. What Goldratt identified in his previous book, The Theory of Constraints, is that where you have dependencies, variances don't cancel out, they accrue. In other words, if I do my task in 3 days and you do yours in 7 days, the 3 and the 7 don't get added together, become 10 and divide by 2, that's 5-day average. What happens is I do mine in 3, and then you don't get my input for another 2 days. So actually, you still get it on day 5. So suddenly it's not 10 days, it's 12 days. We lose the gains and all the losses are combined. And part of that is due to what's called multitasking as well. People don't multitask particularly well. And so Goldratt's response was to come up with this idea of the critical chain, which is a resource-based. And so we focus on the key resources and we build in buffers, not contingencies, buffers. We have a feeding buffer on the non-critical chains. We have a project buffer there on the critical path. So I'm talking to project managers now, but we also have resource buffers for any key resources. So we have, if we've identified the IT guy testers as the key resource, we manage their time and we manage the buffer, the contingency they have, and we manage that actively. So it's worth thinking about. It's just another approach to resource management. I mentioned it. Those of you who have an interest, you can read up about critical chain at your leisure.